Thank you so much for joining me, Toby. As a really quick one, I think my best friend in 40k, I don't know, known you since I came back into the hobby, really. So I really appreciate you joining me today. This isn't your first time on this podcast channel, whatever I want to call it. We have done a recording before, but due to my ineptitude of editing and getting things together, it didn't go live, but that was fine. So, but in case you are not aware of Toby, he is, I would say, the face, some would say one of many faces of BCG and Black Crow Gaming, and also doing extremely well, and at the moment the top performing player, getting a 4-1 at the last UKTC. Excited to see what he does coming up. But today we're going to talk about his Dark Angel list that was made famous by the one and only Vic Starr on his podcast. Firstly, calling Toby a legend of the scene, and also being quite innovative in his list creation, which, as some people who've come to watch this before knows, that's what I like to talk about, lists that aren't the traditional standard of how armies are created. So that is one reason why Toby's here. Secondly, I love him, and thirdly, it's just a good chance to catch up. So welcome, Toby.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's always great when you get to hang around and talk about toy soldiers with your mates, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I actually described myself recently, instead of the face of BCG, as the left butt cheek of BCG, because I like to be the butt of the jokes, and I like to just mess around and be the little goblin that just sort of does the stupid stuff in the corner and then occasionally makes social media posts. That's kind of my role within the team. But yeah,
that's true. I forgot to mention how, if you ever see the amazing artwork and stylings, that is Toby here, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we've just overhauled all of the style that we're doing it and everything like that. So we've just overhauled all the thumbnails and all of the like the social media stuff for it, on the advice of Steve from Vanguard Tactics. So hopefully that'll help us come good with that, and we'll start growing. We've already got about 500, I think, just nearly 550 subscribers now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
by the time I edited this, I mean, loads more. So
I hope so. But I mean, I think it's just a case that we're turning up to lots of tournaments. So that's kind of the trick to it. People are learning our names because we're at the tournaments, not because we're trying to grow a YouTube channel. Like, I know that a lot of people are just able to do a YouTube channel because they're very talented artists, or they're very talented at certain aspects of the hobby, or they're like just a big personality. But I think we just like to turn up to tournaments and mess around.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people know us, like, more so than anything else. Not because we're like crazy good players or incredible artists, just because we post everyone.
Well, I mean, there's the feature you guys have been doing recently, where you're kind of putting people's faces onto stuff and things like that. But you're also getting big names. I mean, the bigger name it was, this is a while back, I know, but you had Manny in, who hasn't done many podcasts apart from his own stuff. There's been a huge variety that has been developing and growing. So it's excited to see kind of it continue. So yeah,
we got some really big ones coming up as well. So like really, really big ones coming up. So I won't give away any spoilers, but
Trump.
We're doing his presidential interview. I'm going to call
his
him a
Necron
douchebag.
army is beautiful. I mean,
it is. He's going to build
the best.
he actually plays demons, and he's going to build a wall of Nurglings, and he's going to make Mexico pay for it. It's beautiful.
Exactly. Cool. Well, let's go on to your list. So, as I said, firstly, it was announced by Vic as being a really inventive list. It's something he wasn't seeing. No, that's big. The thing is, so that if you haven't heard it on the Fireside Podcast, there were two mentions of Toby. One was before the tournament. He was saying how interesting the list was and went through the entire thing. Secondly, then called you a legend in the second podcast, and the only comment he had on it about it being not like I think it basically he was saying it wasn't the standard list, and so it was potentially missing some of what he was expecting. But it kind of goes beyond the fact that he won the entire tournament, and you won every other game but that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand the comments that he's making because I was having a laugh with one of the other big Dark Angels players, Alan Percival, recently, about how on paper my lists always look terrible, and everyone's like, "What are you doing? Why is it?" And then I'll be like, "Yeah, but I've just gone 4-1, like because I've gone 4-1 2 tournaments in a row now with basically the same list."
Yeah.
And the other one, honestly, was actually probably a slightly harder run than Oxford, weirdly enough, but. That's just the local meta in Peterborough being absolutely bonkers. But
it also comes down to like your list, like how your models work really well.
Yeah, well, not to make the comparison, but like if you look at people like Scary, even when Drakari are absolutely garbage, he's still very comfortably winning tournaments. Of course, like I'm not that level, but equally, this is my first year playing competitively. And it's also my first year properly playing Dark Angels because I picked them up. When was it? A little bit after everyone started picking them up.
So you were Salamanders for a long time, is that right?
Yeah, I was Salamanders for a really long time, and I really enjoyed the Melters and everything. And then I decided because I love Terminators. I absolutely love Terminators. Yeah. It also happened at that point they're all transhuman, so they're a little bit busted.
Yeah.
So I played that for a bit. This is before I was playing competitively, really, though. And then they got nerfed into the ground. So I played Chaos Demons for a bit, which I still do have.
Yeah.
And then I sort of lovingly returned to Dark Angels. And then started 10th. I started playing properly competitively with originally the Gladius lists with all of the. It's been so long since I played with them.
Yeah, that was a while back now.
Terrible. I can't remember the indirect unit. The absolutely busted indirect
Desolation
unit.
Squad. Yeah.
Desolators, yeah, Desolators. They're absolutely brilliant. So I played with them for ages. But yeah, so I think it is just a case that if you really focus on a list and you learn it and you learn the intricacies of it, you can kind of win in you can win in the movement phase, which I think has always got to be the target.
Yeah. And I think that's something that stands out for you and makes it the list work. Well, as you said, Vic may have looked at it and not made sense, but it proves itself later on. So I can go through the list. It might be better from your mind. We'll start with the name because that's the most important part.
Obviously.
So we have the lion is the definition of DILF. I mean, what else you got to say? Sorted. Actually, with the new points now, is he tempting you? He's a lot lower.
No, he's, as I saw, because everyone that read the list name then was like, well, where is he? And I was like, he's too busy being sexy. So, like, that's why he's not in the list.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's doing his hair. He's looking hot. He's got a cool beard. That's what he's doing. He's busy. And this theory has lasted. I've done it 3 tournaments in a row now. Not in a row, but I've done it in 3 tournaments where I've called the list of a reference of the lion being a DILF. I think it started with the origin of I play Dark Angels because I think the lion is a DILF.
Is that the one that went on to Meta Monday as a comment? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that Tactical Tortoise spread out on his stream.
Yeah,
which was quite entertaining. But then I did it again at Peterborough and went 4-1. So I was like, well, apparently it works. I'll do it at Oxford, and it worked. So apparently by calling my list, and yesterday we called our team the Lion is a True DILF, and we came 3rd.
See, it's luck of the
in
name.
a double. Yeah. I just it's my lucky charm. It's just, he's the best dad. Yeah. So
one day you'll get to play him.
Oh yeah. I would love to. I would really. I've got the model. I've got everything. My friend bought it for me actually as well. So it's like it was a Christmas present from him, and he attached a little badge on it that just said "You are worthy" with this hand done like Dark Angel symbol. So it was really cute. So I would love to get him on the table, but unfortunately, right now he is just terrible.
Yeah, yeah. It will come back.
One day.
Wait till 11th and 12th edition will be fine. So
he needs to be Nightbringered. Like, make him 100 points, and then we'll be happy.
yeah, exactly that. Yeah. So I'll start off and tell me where things are going wrong here. But so we have a Firestorm assault force with Azrael as coming in at the top there with the Warlord, the Librarian of Phobos armor. Or Phobos, I can never get these ones right. And then a lieutenant with a combi weapon. That's the one from the new Leviathan box, right?
Yeah, the I'm Still Standing lieutenant.
Nice, perfect. Then we have a squad of intercessors, a squad of assault intercessors with jump packs, the Gladiator Reaper ×2, the Inceptor squad, another Inceptor squad, a squad of incursors, infiltrators, a Predator Destructor, lovely choice there, love that one. The 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, 2 Scout Squads, and then finally, I think the one that kind of catches most people of interest is the Storm Speeder Thunderstrike. So what of those ones, the Thunderstrike sticks out to me first just because of the abilities it gives once it's shot. You probably better explain it, but it gives extra. Is it +1 to hit on those ones? I'm trying to remember now.
No, it's +1 to wound.
That's the one, so it's even better. Monsters. So yeah. Yeah.
So the list is designed around the breakpoint of being within 12 inches. So Redemptors are balanced because their guns are strength 9 when they're overcharged. When they're strength 10 and they're able to wound medium vehicles on 4s, and they're able to wound toughness 5 Necrons on 2s, they go silly pretty quickly. Because they're still 3 damage, and the AP -4 is absolutely huge. So that's the same AP as a Lancer. Mm-hmm. So and tends to be I know a lot less damage on each individual shot, but it's a lot more consistent. Mm-hmm. So then you see that with some of the other bits as well, just like bolt rifles going up to strength 5 is actually really relevant. The crack missile off the scouts that goes up to strength 10.
Yeah, wow, yeah.
So that rather entertainingly killed Cypher on turn 1. My opponent moved Cypher within 12 inches of a board edge. I went up, down. Scouts, crack missile. You failed your save. Roll 6 on damage. Cool. Bye. And
that's great.
It was very funny. Although the dice very much then suddenly decided to betray me, but it went well in the end. But
it was the winning moment. That was the.
It was as a Dark Angels player, killing Cypher on turn 1 with a scout missile. There is nothing better. So yeah, the scouts, their mission play, all that kind of thing, and the fact that everything has assault, it just, again, it goes back to that point of you win in the movement phase.
Yeah.
And that's what I was aiming to do. Everything suddenly having assault throws off your opponent's maths, because they're going, right, what is the threat range of X, Y, Z? They're constantly having to assume that I'm going to roll a 6 in advance, because if they don't assume that I roll a 6 in advance and I do, suddenly they can just lose a game because of that. Yeah. So they're having to factor in a lot more in their choice making. I always have that little bit of extra movement that and then action doing, which is I think the really big thing for me. When I used to play Gladius, I would always just be like, I just wish I was in the Devastator Doctrine for 5 turns, and then they introduced that with a little bit of extra bonus. Firestorm itself is actually quite poor, particularly with the list. Like there is one actually relevant stratagem in Firestorm for this list, and it's the +1 to wound one. Crucible of Battle, which is obviously absolutely excellent. +1 to wound with your closest enemy unit when I'm trying to close with them, or +1 for unit for usually a Redemptor in combat. It's then suddenly wounding tanks on 2s in combat. Nice. But the sort of the other stratagems are either related to transports or related to some other stuff, so they're really not very good, which I think is is partly why Vic probably made the comment that he made, because I'm not leaning into the detachment. I'm leaning into that break point with the going up to strength 10 most of the time. The speeder, honestly, alongside the Reapers, was probably one of the best units all tournament.
Yeah.
Because it's agile, it's easy to hide, it is surprisingly survivable. Like, it doesn't just go down to chip damage and things
I was
like
thinking
that.
how come people, in my head, it would be like one of the first targets to get rid of that ability, but people are kind of leaving it.
Well, it skulks at the back,
Yeah.
because it's got, on one of its guns, it's got 48-inch range.
Nice. So as soon as that's done, you covered.
Exactly. So all I need to do is, and it hits on 2s.
Nice.
So, which is really weird, because like all the other marine stuff hits on 3s, but this speeder hits on 2s. And the other speeders hit on 3s as well, but this one is 2s. So it's a little bit like how Death Guard play the Hellbrute.
Yeah.
To get stuff in contagion range, but also sometimes you just high roll, like, because it's 3d6 plus 1 damage weapons. Like that can be a heck of a lot of damage.
Absolutely.
Flying out. Yeah, I mean, again, it's one of those ones where you want to get it within 12, because then suddenly the last few zil goes up to strength 10. But equally, you don't mind just skulking at the back or reserving it, dropping it in with the Inceptors, hitting something with it, and then just deleting it with the Inceptors, because then suddenly they're wounding on 4s into any tank, and re-rolling all of their wounds. So like they are just going to pick up any tank at that point, unless you roll like horrendously poorly. On average, they'll pick up every.
Which can happen very easily.
Yeah, it does. It does happen, but usually you'll be grand.
Yeah.
So what I would say was the list needed. So the list previously didn't have a Predator in. It had 9 Inceptors. It had 3 by 3, 2 squads with Plasma, 1 squad with Bolters, and I ended up dropping the Bolter squad for the Predator, because weirdly they're the same points, because it's got 2 las cannons, it's got a hunter killer missile, and that auto cannon is no joke, especially when that auto cannon goes up to strength 10 and it's within 12, and like then it's 6 shots at strength 10, AP -1, which is less good, but 3 damage. So that felt really nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the core of the list. The Smiths and Never sticky objectives, and to babysit Azrael if they have indirect. The lone op infiltrators are absolutely amazing, because you can't deep strike them. Because if you deep strike, you can't declare a charge into them because you're over 12 inches away, and you can't shoot them because you're over 12 inches away.
Yeah.
So they are so good. They're absolutely incredible. So I was really pleased with them. Trying to think if there's anything else to really highlight. I mean, Redemptors do Redemptor things. Reapers are just stupidly efficient.
Yeah.
Sustain 2 is bonkers. You just go, cool, I will fish for everything, and then I'll fish for dev wounds, and oh look, your whole unit fell over. Bye.
Yeah. So if you're okay with it, what I was thinking was, and we'll try and do it like we're not going to dwell on it too long, but if we run through each game as a quick note, kind of bullet point thing down, and then maybe if you had at the end anything you might change to the list. I know it's like something you have stuck with for a bit, so maybe it's not going to have anything too dramatic, but just because of doing so well, you are getting into those echelons where you're very close to really kind of. Well, I mean, I know you played Vic in the first round, but it's a case where you're almost going to get onto those guys in the later rounds. So, if you have any adjustment ideas, but anyway, starting off, Vic will do really quickly because I know it was the only loss. But how did that run down?
Yeah, so I definitely reserved too much because we were on Dawn of War deployment. So I was like, okay, there's no way that you can fully screen Dawn of War, right? So I reserved the Reapers, the Speeder, and the Inceptors. And because I was like, okay, he's got the triple castigators. I'll drop in the speeder and the inceptors, and they will pick up 2 castigators. Because on average, because you put one of the guns from the speeder, like the Icarus pods, into one tank to give the +1 to wound on that, and then pick it up with the other 2.
Yeah.
And then the inceptors pick up the one that's got +1 to wound into it.
Yeah.
And then the Reapers come in where the Arcoflagellants are and pick them up. Unfortunately, Vic's list was just so MSUE, and he rolled some really long bomb charges with his his Arcos, and that meant that the Arcos could like string. And I've literally got photos of this because I thought it was so ridiculous looking. That I took a photo, sent it to some friends, and just went, "What the is this?" Because I don't do combat. I will say now, I don't do combat. I don't enjoy it. I don't understand the minutiae of it. I like shooting things. That is my happy place. And they were just stringing all across the board, and I was like, "Cool, yeah, I can't do anything now."
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a bit of an unfortunate one. The Redemptors were great. Didn't really have an answer to the Redemptors. They absolutely smashed it. But yeah, the rest of it was a bit rougher. So I lost that one, I think 100 to 44.
47. So
47, yeah. Sure. Yeah, 100 to 47.
I said it was the only loss. There's one. We move on from it.
Yeah. So that was it. Vic was great fun. We had a really good laugh.
Nice.
We had a really nice chat before, during, and after. So it was all really positive and all really friendly. So like even when you are playing those top players, there is that reputation around competitive. It's just not the case. We had such a good laugh. I think
there was an element of like, I think we discussed it before, the idea of like trying to forget it's him, because
yeah. I mean, I kind of did, and like I was just like, cool, I'm gonna crack, because like, to be honest, it's still easier than the last one I had, which was Josh Roberts. So
yeah, true.
It's literally like, and that's no offense to Vic, but it literally was Josh Roberts, the guy that writes the rules, and at that point was playing the best list.
Now it doesn't
ever.
matter. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like that, I lost 115, and the world did like the sky didn't fall down.
Yeah.
I then went 3-2 at that event and only lost my second game by 1 point. So it's fine. But yeah, so just had a good laugh.
Nice.
Really enjoyed it. And Vic's a lovely bloke, so I think that's the most important thing. When you can walk away from the game.
He called you a legend, so
Yeah, exactly. Like that to me is a huge win. When your opponent walks away from the table and was like, "I had a great time playing against that guy. I hope we play again." And Vic has said that to me and hit the comments on Fireside Chat. Then probably wants to play me again so he can beat me again. But but like, yeah, it was a really fun time. I felt like I learned quite a bit about the minutiae of combat and things like that, which I didn't know previously.
I'd love to see those string pictures. That sounds cool, man.
I'll send you later, because they are quite
awesome.
funny. I'll try and find the screenshot where I just go, "What is going on?" It was Miracle Dice were also really busted.
Yeah.
But,
I think he's spoken before. He can get like 25 really easily, and just
Well, he didn't have that many, but he had the 6s when he needed them.
Yeah.
The hunter killers from the rhinos to pick up a gladiator that I just rapid ingressed was painful.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was that game.
Cool.
And then I was on.
So then you Ashley Prosser with Orcs. This is the old Orcs, obviously, but
yes, War Tribe.
Yeah.
Ashley with his. Did you see the list?
No, I got it here.
It has a gargantuan Squiggoth in it.
Yeah, Beast Fossil, Squigosaur, Big Mech, Mega Armor, Mosrex Crackbot. That's what I expected. Pain Boss, War Boss.
It was super standard, and then just
only three trucks.
Well, this is it. So literally, it was all the beast.
Gargantuan Squiggoth, 440 points.
Yeah. So
Jeez.
Bless him, Ashley, and I had. What we didn't realise is so at the start of the game I was like, okay, can you actually move the Squiggoth? Because we're on search and destroy.
No.
And he was like, yeah, it goes over ruins. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Turns out it doesn't. It does go over ruins that are less than 4 inches. Unfortunately, in the UKTC book, every ruin is 4.1. So I was against a Squiggoth that could move anywhere on the map, which was more difficult than a Squiggoth that couldn't move anywhere. Ashley had no idea about this, bless him. I only realised evening after at the dinner, and because we have Alan actually again is a UKTC judge, and he said that's not what should have happened.
But that's
exactly. So I then chatted to. Luckily, we know one of the judges there, Toby, amazing guy. And he sorted it out for us. And I did catch up with Ashley afterwards, and he was like, "This was a complete accident." And I was like, "I know it's a complete accident. We had like the most fun game. It was obvious that you were just having a laugh, like bringing a Squiggoth. You're not trying to be a gamey guy here.
No.
I know that you're not.
It's stuff like I was saying to Darren. I picked up a Tantalus. And he was like, awesome, they're great models. You're going to have to really be picking out the train you play on to actually be able to move them around anything. So,
yeah, I mean, UKTC, there was someone that went, the highest ranked Akari player at Oxford took one.
Yeah, oh, really? Okay, I'll have to check that. I'll check out the list. Yeah,
the 3-2 list came 70th.
Nice.
But yeah, have a look at that. So that one was on supply drop against the Gargantuan Squiggoth, which is actually probably the one mission that you don't want to have a Gargantuan Squiggoth on, because it's a 30 wound model, toughness 13, with a -1 to wound if they want to use it for a CP, because it's not a vehicle, it's a monster.
Yeah.
And so none of my stuff was wounding it on less than a 5, even if I gave my stuff +1 to wound. And it's OC 12.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah, that was fun.
It's thick. So the Gargantuan Squiggoth actually did not take a wound all game.
Wow.
Didn't take a single wound all game. The rest of his army died.
Well done for winning that. Totally. Then, yeah.
Yeah. So it was quite a tight game. On the war turn, the knobs with War Boss. So I picked up all the Mega Knobs on turn 1 with the Reapers. The Reapers were amazing. I think there was like 1 left, which was kind of annoying because then 1 came back because the mech, and all that kind of shebang. But I was able to deal with them with a Redemptor immediately after. But the Knobs got a 6 on their advance in the war turn to then, I think they went like 18 inches. Or like, I think actually, no, sorry, it was over 20 inches in the war turn, to make a charge on one of my Reapers and just goodbye.
Yeah.
Which was rough, and that was like basically just in front of my big L on Search and Destroy.
Yeah.
So it was Orcs on Search and Destroy on supply drop where I have to come out.
Yes.
It was scary. But luckily I was able to pick up Mosrag and the Beast Bosses. The Beast Boss when I needed to. The Inceptors were incredible into Mosrag. Just decimated him.
Wow, I'm really impressed by that.
Yeah, just the amount, because obviously they had +1 to wound.
Yeah.
But they just bodied him. And then he had to go off the objective to go and get it. So it was nice.
It worked out those points, yeah.
Yeah, so the last model on the board was the Squiggoth. And I was like, I am going to place my remaining units around this objective so that you cannot end a move without stepping on one, and therefore cannot legally move.
Yeah.
Couldn't legally move anyway. However, we didn't know that. But that was a great one.
I bet his opponents the next day were loving you then. They were like...
Yeah. So I saw him and he comes up to me and he just goes, "You ratted me out." And I was like, "Yes, I'm so sorry." And he was like, "Now my Squiggoth's stuck at the back." And I was like, "Yes, I know. I'm sorry."
But I mean, I saw that. I think it was at LGT. There's a group chat I was in talking about. Like, I was bringing like a Titan orc thing, and he drew a map of everywhere he could walk, and it was nowhere. It couldn't go anywhere, and he's like, "I'm still bringing it."
Yeah, I mean, round one, you can. Round one, it has the greatest time on earth.
Yeah.
Then it does nothing.
Yeah.
But that round one,
so you need...
unfortunately, he lost his round one.
Oh.
So... But yeah, no, it was. I mean, the damage output on those knobs was terrifying. But like, also just the amount of just like, oh, -1 to wound, -1 to wound. I'm like, can you not? Like, can that stop? Can we just kill that stratagem? Yeah. But yeah, it made me a bit scared for new orcs, I've got to say.
They're going to be.
But funnily enough, that mission's actually been dropped.
Oh really?
So supply drop's been dropped from the UKTC book now. That's actually just taken hold. So, and I think it's because if you look at the scores across the round on round 2, so many people scored like 60 and won.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? So there was a couple of 5-0s that didn't make the shadow because of supply drop.
Oh, interesting.
And it's like, okay, a little bit unfair that, you know, armies that have more infiltrate or armies that have more scout move or that just have more movement in general are purely advantaged just because of this mission. So I get why they've done it. I don't personally agree with it. I would like to see supply drop left in there, even though it is a bit of a Marmite mission. Some people hate it. I quite like it. That might be because the last 2 times I've played it, I've won on it, but 3 times actually. But we won't talk about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, now it's taken hold. But yeah, Ashley was a lovely guy. Absolute gem of an opponent. Had a great time. The Squigoth accidentally became slightly OP, but we can forgive that.
Yeah, forgive that one. So then your next one was Jessie Lovegood with Drakari, and you went the 100 to 60 with this one.
Yeah, so Jess was lovely. Jess was really lovely. She's actually a local-ish. I think she's round sort of the Northampton area.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so like, I think she started going to tournaments relatively similar time to me, and so I'd spotted her through the crowd a couple of times. I think I'd spotted her at Northampton, but yeah, like we both had exactly the same attitude of we're here to have a laugh, and we actually nearly timed out because we were messing around so much.
Oh really?
Yeah, but like we were being very serious in terms of the game, but we were also just like poking fun at each other and all that kind of thing, having a really good time. It was like, honestly, if you get a game against Jess, you're gonna have an awesome time. She's such a good laugh. And it was Drakari on Purge on a mission. So actually the last time I played the mission Northampton, I had Sky Splinter Drakari on Purge on this exact map, so I kind of knew how it went. I kind of knew where I needed to sit to avoid the Scourges, to then pop out, kill the Scourges because they can't do anything, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it was pure luck that I'd done it at Northampton, but the Scourges didn't even get a shot off in Northampton.
Wow.
Yeah, there was loads of different things that happened with that, but the Scourges did nothing. But with Jess's, I was able to have a turn where 2 raiders blew up in the center, which disgorged 20 witches, and both units just got killed by reapers.
I just had a look. The double witches is a lot to bring. So
yeah, with no Lilith, because I was really surprised
or succubus either.
Yeah, and I get it, because witches are like, with +1 to wound, they're pretty good at trading up into infantry or tanks, I guess, because they're like, worst case scenario, they're wounding on 5s. But yeah, I just, into my list, it's rough. It's a really rough matchup, because I know what I can put in front of the Drakari to absorb the first blow, and also like I rolled hot that game. which is why I got, it was a quite lopsided score,
Yeah.
purely because, and it could have been a lot closer if Jess had a couple of different secondary cards at certain points and things like that. It just sort of the path aligned in a nice way for me. And it's something that I'm experienced on. I don't think she had played a list like mine previously, possibly the Ironstorm variant, but it's still very different to the way I play, which does catch people out sometimes. And also, I love that map 3 and 4. It is just my favorite thing ever. But yeah, it was a great game.
Nice. So then going into the next day,
Yes.
mine's loading. I can't tell you.
It's a Dark Angel.
Oh yes, I remember. I was so excited for this one. Yeah. Because I saw it and I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So this was against John Joseph with his Dark Angels. Was it much? I mean, obviously, I found it earlier. Your list is quite unique. So how was this? How was this one for you? Because this was a Gladius as well. So
yeah, so he was playing the Gladius list with the aggressors. So it was a list that I've seen spoken about a lot online. Because it's Azrael with the 10 Hellblasters and the Lieutenant. And it's something that I'm quite active in the Dark Angels competitive group, and it is something that whenever someone posts it, I'm always like, that is the first thing you need to take out. Like, even with the points drop, it is not worth doing. Hellblasters are not good. They just don't, because of the plasma being TA strength 8. It's just not good. When it was strength 8 in the last edition, whew,
yeah,
but now does nothing. And the shoot on death is like, great, they shoot on death. I'm outside of 24, or you're shooting a tank.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay. So I've been very negative about that list online. So I then saw the matchup and I was like, oh right, okay, UKTC's got a sense of humour.
And you have to prove your point now, yeah.
I was like, if I lose to this, I'm gonna look like a right bellend. And I was like, there's a lot of damage output going on it. There was a few things that I thought maybe could have changed a little bit with the list. The main one being, really nice aspect of it was it played the 6 aggressors with the Apothecary Biologists, but they also had the captain in, so that they could get Storm of Fire for free every turn. So suddenly they're ignoring cover and AP -2 into the closest enemy unit. All that shebang. So they're deleting whatever they see. And John had just beaten proper World Eaters. Because he had the 8th
Angron constantly returning type thing, is that what he's facing?
Yeah, that like proper classic World Eaters, and he'd just beaten it. So I was like, okay, clearly there's some legs in here. So what am I going to do to take this down? And I deployed reasonably aggressively. He had to deploy it because he had the Land Raider, not Redeemer, but Crusader, and that was because he had the 8th model in that aggressor unit, so he had to have that bigger transport capacity. I honestly think I would just spend the CP rather than have to take that Land Raider, because like the Bolters versus the Flamestorm.
Wait, what do you mean spend the CP?
Because you can just so the captain was there to free strat I
see what you mean. I thought you meant like, I thought there was a CP thing in Space Marines I didn't know about, like adding extra guy in.
No, that'd be great.
Say, what is that move? That's cool.
No, I think everyone would be doing that if we could. But so he'd brought a Crusader to transport, so the transport capacity was 16 rather than the 14 that the Redeemer is. And I think that was big. Also playing I dropped playing my Land Raider on UKTC terrain because it's not very easy to move it around, and your opponent can predict where it has to go. which is what happened. And I won the roll off, so I went first. I ran my scouts forward, which then screened out the. I ran my scouts forward, and screened off the repulsor from moving forward because it was two big transports. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to put everything into this Land Raider and pick it up. So it got picked up. The aggressors came forward. They did make their charge, and they ended up picking up a Redemptor. The only reason they picked up that Redemptor though was because I failed a hazardous check.
Right.
So like otherwise it would have been left alive on 3 wounds, which was like, you know, AOC, all that kind of stuff.
Happens. Yeah.
It was rough for him. And then I was like, okay, so now the aggressors are basically in my deployment zone with no support. So I picked them all up.
Right.
The Reapers just went, here is all of these dev wounds.
Yeah.
And then the Repulsor also got popped that turn because I had spare shooting to go that way because I had the speeder go into the Repulsor and then the Inceptors dropped and the Scouts were still there because all the Repulsor shots, it has its like 10 shot bolters and it killed one Scout with it. And like that at that point, like, that's just low roll. And he probably shouldn't have picked up the whole unit because it's 10 wounds of stuff, so he's not going to pick up the whole unit. But he literally couldn't go anywhere with it, and then I popped it. So yeah, sure, I then lost all my Inceptors and the Scouts because they got picked up by the Hellblasters that then fell out. But then I was like, okay, the Redemptors now shoot the Hellblasters from 36 inches away.
That was, I mean, in a way, did that feel really cathartic in the fact that you were talking about the list and saying how where the elements of it were wrong, and you were like, phew, I managed it.
A little bit, yeah. Like, because I have been so harsh about the list where everyone's like, take Azrael in the transport, do all of that. And I'm like, no, it will not work. Someone will just go, here is a screen of Scouts. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was rough for poor old John because he just got blocked off and stopped from doing just about anything.
Yeah.
Sometimes
I mean, a mirror match is always hard because if someone else knows your army that well as well, it's always a little bit trickier.
Yeah, well, this was the thing, and like he was playing armies similar to things like similar, but I think slightly. I really just think he should have had that Redeemer. Would have been the major thing for me. Really, really think he missed out on having that Redeemer instead of the and having to have a Crusader instead.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't many units. So I was able, and like I was quite surprised at that. So I was able to like focus on certain areas at a certain time and just sort of sweep and go, okay, well, I'm not being threatened on this flank, so I'll just have this objective over here. And it's Scorched Earth, and I actually managed to burn an objective, which I never do on Scorched Earth. I've never burnt an objective before. I actually did manage to on this one.
Nice.
But yeah, John was a really lovely opponent, and in what was quite a brutal game in terms of like he didn't get to do very much because he kind of had to play the game that I dictated to him. He was still a really good sport. So, and like if you're a really good support when you literally don't really get to play your game at all, I think that's a real good sign of the kind of person you are. So like huge kudos to him. Absolutely. And I think it might have been his first UKTC. So like he did well, but he's
doing well then. If he's he
was 2-1 after day one. But yeah, he just had a bit of a rough matchup round 4, I think.
Sunday. There you go.
Yeah.
So then your final one was against Ed Moon with his Chaos Space Marines. Really, I mean, from the scores, it looks like a tight game. Yes, you won, but it seems kind of, how was that for you?
It was so I think my exact words going to turn 5 were, Ed, my bumhole looks like a 5p piece.
Oh my word!
Yeah,
Okay.
we again, Ed and I were not taking, we were taking it very seriously, but we were also in many ways fun.
Yeah.
Also rather nicely, Ed is also now a teammate. We picked at Oxford. I offered if he wanted to join Crows, and he has now joined the Crows, which is
Nice.
awesome. He was playing a CSM list, which is very much a list that I've actually been discussing, because Dom Maidlow had messaged me going, I think CSM is still good. Here's this list, XYZ. I'm not going to go into this list because when he and I talk about this, we're quite private about them.
No, I'm not going to ask you to pick out. So yeah.
But yeah, so it was, as soon as I saw the list, I was like, this looks a lot like Dom's list. And then Ed went, "Did you do YouTube?" when he got to the table, and I was like, yeah. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I know Dom Maidlow," and I was like, yeah, that explains a lot. So clearly he'd been working with Dominant. So I was like, okay, I'm up against a Mind Goblins list, basically.
Yeah.
Which, they're the fifth best team in the country for a reason. They're very, very good players. They're very, and Dom is I think a lot of his strengths are in his list building, particularly as well.
Yeah.
So I know
this was your cipher killing game, right?
It was, yeah. So it's 6 objectives taken hold. So it's, you're going to score pretty well on primary.
Yeah.
What I think I went second, so I was like, cool, okay. So I think that lets me just sort of play a bit more defensively, which I needed to do because my God, the shooting. And like Ed literally turned to me at one point and was like, "I'm so sorry for the amount of 5s and 6s I'm rolling," and I was like, "No, you aren't."
Well, it's all the predators, everything.
Oh, triple Forge Fiend. Forge Fiends are still good
well,
for 200 points. Just keep taking them. Don't be a moron. Triple Predator, and then some score. Abaddon and a Hellbrute. Abaddon and I was going like, what on earth is going on with all this shit? And he was like, well, I've got 400 points of buff. And I was like, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah. Abaddon also just, he is a nasty boy. And then just like the spawn and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was having my army absolutely dismantled. Obviously Ed was running hot. He said himself he was running really, really hot on his dice. So again, I had to go back to the basics, win in the movement phase, deny him primary, try and position him so he was stuck in his sort of half of the board, so that he couldn't use his lone ops trap efficiently. And then whenever I got the opportunity, just kill the units that were on objectives. And just his secondary cards were quite nice as well. So he was getting the no prisoners, the overwhelming force right at the right moments and things like that. I was like, oh God, okay. And I missed out on big overwhelming force because a Redemptor charged a 1 wound Forge Fiend and didn't kill it, which was painful. Very painful.
Yeah.
But what won it in the end, because I thought the game might have gone, but I was like, just chase the points.
Yeah, say you won. What was the final score? It was 80 to 90. So
yeah,
really
80 to 90.
Close,
yeah, it was really tight. And we get, so on turn 4, because I had the sticky objectives and the intercessors, which is the only reason the intercessors are in there, and I would really recommend people to look at intercessors again, purely for sticky objectives. The infiltrators.
I'm on the sticky train with that one.
So good. It was Darren that put me onto it, and I've not looked back since. So the infiltrators legged it forward, deployed teleport Homer. Abaddon got picked up by a Redemptor, just going absolutely haywire on it. It was beautiful, because the Abaddon had just slaughtered a Redemptor, and then the other Redemptor went, bet son, and picked him up. And it was quite,
just made sure,
and that was for overwhelming force as well. So it was really good. And I was like, cool, I'm going second, so I'm scoring at the end of my turn. Sticky at the back.
Yep.
I've got nothing else there. He couldn't shoot the infiltrators, because they were lone op, and they were hiding from some of his army, and then the rest of it, the only angle he had, they were lone op. So I was like, okay, they can't die. They're gonna take an objective. They're gonna score me 5 points. And then I was already holding one which I had to get for tempting target the turn before, and that was pretty well hidden. So I get the full 15 on primary, and I'd started turn 5 at 65 to 80.
Oh, really?
So I then got 80. So like I turned to it and I went, right, okay, if I can score any of my secondaries, the game's done.
Yeah.
First one, so obviously he was clicking mine and I was clicking
so
his.
I guess in a way, as you said earlier, winning in movement phase. That is the you are on the 80, and now it's literally 1 point, 2 point, whatever it is, just secures it. Yeah.
And I got cleanse. So I got cleanse and tempting target, and so Ed technically could have made it 85 to 80, but he gave me the extra 5 points so that I had a higher chance of doing better.
Exactly.
The game's gone at that point, that's what you do. So even closer game than the score could have been.
Wow.
But it was the narrowest of squeaky bum times.
But
Ed and I had a
you've proven that point, that you're, even with a list that typically you wouldn't think is a heavy focus on movement thing, because there's lots of tanks, lots of heavy pieces, the movement is the winning point.
100%. And sometimes you spike on advance rolls, like Redemptors sometimes run 14 inches.
Yeah.
And then they shoot, and it's quite funny.
That's such hilarious, like.
Oh yeah, there's the last. And it's quite entertaining when that happens. But it was that game. Ed picked up most of my army, and I was literally looking. I was picking up models, and I was going, "How do I win this game?"
Mm-hmm.
Like, my entire army is just falling apart. I don't know what I'm doing, and well, I snuck it. Very, very narrowly. Ed and I
claimed your 4-1
game.
Yeah.
I did get my 4-1, which put me 36th. So yeah, it was a real pleasure, and I'm really glad we got Ed in the team as well, because he is such a good player.
Nice.
And that was his first UKTC.
Wow.
So he was on for a 4-1 and very nearly had the 4-1 at his first UKTC. So massive kudos to him.
Absolutely.
But yeah, just about managed to sneak that. At the end of the game, I went and laid on the floor for a little bit, because I was like, brain gone.
Well, I mean, it's also, you'd had 5 games over the weekend, so it's not.
Yeah.
Really well.
And been constantly menaced by Chris. Which adds to the fear the whole time, when at some point a large man may pick you up, or just sort of just squish you.
Photos available on the BCG page.
Yeah, photos available on the BCG OnlyFans.
Yeah.
As we've offered many a time. But yeah, it was socially as well. It was a weekend. It was such a good laugh. I got to spend loads of time with the VT guys, which was really nice. Jake, Chris was actually playing for us, but obviously he's traditionally VT. But Hobbs, Gorgeous George, I don't want to miss any names out.
Don't worry, all VT people,
yeah, exactly. It was really nice to get to know Steve as well, because watching some of Steve's videos was the first thing that gave me the confidence to start playing competitive. So and then getting to just chat on him as a peer, that was quite cool.
Nice.
And yeah, super lovely bloke as well. We had a real good laugh. We gave him a Toblerone that called him the best teacher, and then had a very in-depth conversation about how much of that Toblerone we could shove up his bum. Judging it by the number of letters.
I'm not sure I can put all this in, but
yeah, probably not. But yeah, we had a good laugh. But yeah, no, it was really, really good.
Awesome.
And yeah, 4-1, 36th with my terrible Firestorm list.
So on that, two more things I wanted to kind of cover really was not that you have to say, because I don't want to like take away any surprises that, you know, the millions of people that watch this channel, you know, it's going to get out there totally. But are there any instant thoughts or potential things you might want to adjust on your list?
I mean, it's difficult to say because we've just had a data slate, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
So we just had a data slate, and we're having 3 codexes drop at the same time. Obviously, one of them is less likely to be as competitive, but 2 of them are highly likely to be seen on the competitive tables, and they're both very different styles, given that they are orcs and Tau. So my list went down 10 points. So, which was really weird. I was expecting Reapers to go up 10 points each, possibly Predators to go up 10 points as well, but outside of Black Templars didn't get touched.
Yeah, Predators are Death Guard are extremely happy with their 3 Predator
Every Space Marine player was just like, "Oh, okay, this is really good." And I think we are just going to see more Predators as time goes on. I think it's just such a good chassis.
I've got 2 boxed over here.
Yeah, honestly, I might steal one off you because I've got my Predator, but it's on back order because it can't.
Yeah. Oh no!
No, I know. So I'm waiting for that for the ITT.
Yeah.
But Predators are insane. For 130 points.
Yeah, absolutely.
The new version of the list is now 2 Predators, because I just want the 4 las cannons. I'm thinking, just nice. The weird thing was, I was like, I now have 20 points because I was already, I think, 990, so I had 30 points just like floating about. Yeah, and nothing overly good to do with them.
It's always frustrating, that, isn't it? You like, I want to get as close as I can there. So,
and I was like, well, do I play Vanguard Vets instead of the Jump Pack Intercessors? And I was like, no. Even at 105 points, they're flat. Like at 80 points, I think you still take the Jump Pack Intercessors, even if they were both 80 points. Like the Van Vets are just rubbish. Like they can have any sorts of like. Because I was like, okay, well, we'll have 5 Hand Flamers because they go up to strength.
I've only played against them when they were in Blood Angels, I think, so it's slightly different, but set up.
Yeah,
yeah.
With the shields and all that kind of thing. But like the Hand Flamers are nice in Firestorm because you can also give them Dev Wounds and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, cool, maybe that. But then I was just kept looking at the profile, and I was like, these don't do mortal wounds on the charge. They are weaker in combat because they don't have a power fist, and the 2 plasmas just might be better than 5 flame pistols. So I was like, cool, we'll drop that. So at the moment we've dropped the Incursors, and we've dropped the Lone Op Lieutenant, and we've got another Predator in there, and then we've got War Tempered Artifice on the Librarian. So suddenly that force weapon is strength 9.
Yeah.
And it's going to come up barely at all. However, there's going to be a game where it comes up and it's game breaking.
And then it's going to be the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like the fact that they're lone op. Like, it was cool because they couldn't get onto my backfield the whole time, but then it was the thing that won me the game.
Yeah.
In round 5 because he couldn't shoot them, so I could
absolutely
So it was just it's just finding those really small edges that you can just eke out of units, and I have the spare 25 points, so in they go. It might be that I'm testing the list.
Oh yeah, no, this isn't I'm holding you to anything.
No. Well,
where it's going. Yeah.
The thing is, it's the next is the ITT, so it's
slightly different. You get to choose your opponents. Yeah. Well, I suppose in that point, because you're coming up to ITT, that's going to have the new codex options available, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So partly because of what we were discussing earlier. Like, I'm still working on my Eldari list to kind of figure out what I want it to go. Your list is a heavy vehicle list, and I was curious where you think the meta's potentially going to go. So there's a meta of like heavy vehicle, where we were discussing D-cannons for me, like, because they are great into a heavy meta list, or whether you think the meta is going to potentially change to more of one that's like sisters, wolves, more Necrons, even though they've been hit, and orcs, which again is kind of like there's more of MSU stuff going on in those ones. I know we don't know because everything changes every week, and also depends on also how tournaments go. But in your mind, where do you think most armies are going to head towards?
Funnily enough, I think both everything and nothing is going to change. Right. So I'll kind of break that down a bit. I think nothing is going to change in the fact that transport bum rush lists and mech lists are going to continue to be the best. Which armies they are in will be a different thing. But I think that standard template of I'm going to bring loads of tanks, or I'm going to bring loads of mechanized infantry, is going to be the thing. Because if you're playing orcs, you're probably already going, okay, battle wagons and trucks, and I'm going to swamp you.
Just push forward, yeah.
Exactly. The same that World Eaters do. World Eaters, they're another one. Mechanized Zerkers are cheaper now. Rhinos are cheap as chips. Are we going to see more Angron-less, or as I like to call them, Angon lists? So that's my favorite. My favorite little World Eaters list, Angon. But that could be the meta. I think D-cannons are a good shout into that meta because they pick up transports and vehicles alike. So they've got that multi-purpose of going, okay, I'm hiding behind a wall. I'll pick up your truck. That's going to open you up to my warp spiders. They're going to pick up lots of the boys.
Yeah.
So that's my kind of feeling on the Eldari. Not that I like Eldari. Boo you. But
I'd say the other option at the moment is the Drakari, but it just kind of, I don't know. I'm going to stick with the Eldari for a while. I think in my head, I'm not a specialist in any form of the word, but because I don't get the opportunity to play that often, it's like if I kept switching, it's going to cause myself more issues. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the MSU Eldari is a good option because it's just so good at scoring. Like you basically start the game at 40 points. Well, 50 points technically if you paint your army.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you start at 50 points.
Just figuring out the primary at that point, yeah.
Exactly, and like you're so good at denying primary that like you could score like 10 on primary, but you're still going to win because you've stopped them scoring anything on it.
Yeah.
Unless it's supply drop.
Yeah.
And you go first, and then it gets real dicey. But I think that's going to be what the meta looks like. I don't think that Space Wolf list with all the Thunderwolf cavalry, I think it saw play at Oxford because the best Space Wolf player in the world was playing it.
That is also a difference. If you've got a specialist doing that stuff, it does change, yeah.
And he only lost a game to Greg Chamberlain, who is one of the best players in the UK, and lovely guy, really lovely bloke. Absolutely love Greg. Got so much time for him, even when he's a grumpy bastard.
So
and I say that with love.
When's he get into BCG?
No way would he go to BCG. He's part of Red Dead. Like I was talking, I won't say who, but I was talking to someone in another team about joining, and he was like, and I was like, well, why would you want to join us rather than stay with the team you're a part of? Because we're an emerging team, the team you're with are higher ranked than us, all that kind of thing. And it was fun. So we may pick up some more high profile players later down the line, but yeah, you know, no, we're not gonna get people like Greg joining us. But yeah, he's really lovely bloke, really supportive as well. It's always quite funny joking he's a grumpy bastard because when he plays the game, He is. So it's always a good laugh. With Greg, I absolutely love him.
You just don't want to play him because then you won't get your win.
Oh no, he's my bogeyman because I always come
Yeah.
really close to beating him, and then because I played him on my first ever tournament,
Yeah.
my first ever GT, I had him round 4, and he was playing the proper. He literally apologised for his list before we started playing. Because he was playing the proper MSU Eldari, like the triple fire prism,
Yeah.
all that kind of thing. Like, and it looked like I had him on the ropes, and then he just picked up 800 points for my army, and I was like, cool, okay,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna cry in the corner. Great game, lots of fun, but yeah. Whew. So that going back to the Space Wolf list. No, I don't think it does very well on UKTC. If you can't breach, I think you struggle on UKTC. Unless you're a big nasty tank that sort of can zip around.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's going to be the meta. I think it might be an orc meta.
I have a feeling it's going to be an orc meta as well. As I said, everyone I've spoken to is moving to orcs.
Well, it's just the fact that, and this was something that Ben Jones did at Oxford and did against one of my teammates. Against the combat armies, you take your 20 Gretchen in one squad with Zogrod or whatever his name is, the guy with the dreadlocks, and suddenly they scout 9, they're -1 to wound, and you've got 40 OC that you can string across the board.
Yeah.
They absorb the first charge, and then the orcs go in. And very thematic.
Yeah.
But
his army was a gift from a friend as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was. Yeah.
So it's really lovely to see him playing them. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think because he only lost to Mark Crumbleholm, I believe, who another guy who plays for Red Dead as well, who was playing a really cool Necron list, really very cool Necron list, lots of bikes, which was interesting to see because I've not really seen Toonblades played as much. I think we will now see Toonblades played a lot more. But yeah, really interesting with flayed ones, Toonblades in Hypercrypt. So I think it might be an orc meta. It depends how well people can adapt to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did jokingly say earlier I'm just going to start playing Black Templars with 6 Reapers. And go, cool, bye. Bye, orcs.
Doesn't have to be a joke. It can be real, Toby. You can make it happen.
It doesn't have to be a joke, but I would also have to buy several more gladiators.
That's nothing.
I'm still aiming because I'm currently ITC 2nd Dark Angel.
Yeah, so if you switch out, you don't want to lose that spot.
Yeah, because I know that the other guys that are in it are both Dark Angel specialists. Well, the other 3 guys, because I think there's 3 guys ahead of me in UKTC for Dark Angels, because I think I'm 4th, and I know they're all Dark Angel specialists. So I've got to stay on the Dark Angels train. But I'm pretty sure they're all playing Ironstorm, and I'm the only one that's playing Firestorm. I think full stop. There was one week when it was in the Meta Monday, it was literally just me.
Wow.
And it was the week we had an 80% win rate, so I was like, let's go. But it was because it was literally just me.
Yeah.
And then at Oxford, I think there was 2 of us. So we had I think it was a 41% win rate.
That's not bad.
I don't know what the maths is for that, because I had an 80% win rate that weekend. So I don't know what the other chap got.
Just lost the whole way and then done. Yeah.
Well, apparently so. So I'd love to. I wish I could find out who it was and have a chat with them. And because
I'd have to dig through all 200 something lists and.
Oh God, no! I don't have the time or the desire to do that. I might put a shout out in the Dark Angels group and be like, "Hey, who's playing Firestorm?
Yeah.
Come be my friend." But that's been a cool thing actually. I love that group. It's nice to see a lot of Dark Angels players trying to improve themselves, and being really open to constructive criticism as well. Because obviously Warhammer, a lot of the time you get people that are very stuck in their ways. But I've found that
Are you talking to me, Toby? Is that what's going on?
Yes, stop playing Eldari.
Put D cannons on it. Oh no, I'm not going to do D cannons. Put them in. No, I don't want to do them.
You immediately put D cannons in when I suggested you put D cannons in.
I started playing around with it, but it hurt because I was losing 3 units. I was like, oh no. But to be honest with you, I spoke to another friend who plays Eldari, and he was like, take the Rangers out, just put more Shadow Spectres in. And I was like, more.
Was that Ben?
No, Clement. He's a guy.
Oh
who's
right,
been playing Harlequins. So
yeah, I went 3-2 at Oxford, I think.
Yeah, yeah. He's like pushing the Harlequin train, so it's quite fun. But
yeah, I mean, I see it. So when I played against, his name, Tom Dooch at Leicester. He was playing full Quins with a couple of Warwalkers, and I think a couple of other pieces, like the Ranger bikes and things like that. And it was just weight of shots. Like those, the heavy bolters, the Eldari heavy bolters.
Yeah,
they aren't bad.
No, they're good fun. So
yeah. So Harlequins. Yeah,
they come in. You know, got mine ready as soon as it does. I'm there, but I can't stop doing the Eldari. I like the warp spiders too much.
Warp spiders are the bane of my existence. And they're like, I'm gonna flicker jump, then I'm gonna fire and fade, even though I haven't shot.
And move again. Yeah.
Why? Why are you allowed to do that? You should have to shoot.
Well, that's why I like Spectres as well, because Spectres have the move out, shoot at you, and then jump away, and it's like,
I hate it.
Yeah,
it's not as bad as Scourges. Scourges are the bane of my existence as a Marine player, because Haywire is a nightmare.
Yeah.
I hate Haywire with a burning passion, like with a burning passion.
But with the vehicle list, totally makes sense. Yeah, so
they're a nightmare. And there's only really one way to deal with them, and that's to go, hi, here's a Reaper, I'm going to overwatch you. Then they fall over real fast, then it's quite entertaining.
Yeah.
But you've got to get them to a point where they have to go after the Reaper rather than something like a Redemptor.
I was just checking out Clement's list because I didn't realise he'd got 3 support weapons in there still. So
did he?
Even with his Harlequins, he's still throwing in. But he's also got 3 Troop Masters, Yvraine, and a Solitaire. So it's a very different way of running it.
I mean, I like it. I like the Solitaire as just like a arrow to a character.
Yeah. It can be great, but I tried it against Dom and really messed up on the first fight first, because his unit had fight first, so the Solitaire just suddenly goes, this can't deal with it. So it was a different thing.
Wait, what has fight first in
his
Guard?
Infiltrate unit, the one that's like all the different weird character guys?
He charged Gaunt's Ghost.
No, that's the only option. He'd put everything away, so the Solitaire was just sat there doing nothing, and the only option was I didn't charge them because it wasn't worth it. He charged into something else later. So, but yeah,
that's a shame, because it would have been nice if it could have gone into Leonatus.
Yeah, no, he
Leonatus
just sat at the back.
Piece.
He just sat at the back with like 40 guards.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah. That game was won like in the first turn due to out of line of sight. I just couldn't do anything. Killed my Farseer, then took everything else out. So it was like,
well, thankfully that list has been nerfed, so it's gone.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Dom's back with the Chaos Space Marines now, so it's fine.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't spoken to him for a little bit. I'll have to drop him a message, but I think he'll probably end up back on that shooty CSM list.
Thank you so much, Toby, for joining me. Really appreciate it.
No worries, my pleasure.
List and your thoughts. It's amazing. Hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.